4, 3, 2, 1. T0, +1, +2, +3. We have liftoff of the SpaceX Falcon 1 carrying razobratsa satellite for ATSB. Falcon 1 has cleared the tower.
Pitch kick.
Vehicle is currently traveling 27 meters per second at 0.2 kilometers above the pad.
Power systems nominal.
First stage propulsion is nominal.
Guidance nominal. Approaching Mach 1.
T plus 1 minute.
First stage MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
Second stage ignition confirmed.
Camera moved to forward
Stage
view.
separation confirmed. Fairing separation confirmed.
Second stage ignition confirmed.
Fed a clean fairing sep. Camera moved to forward
Stage
view.
separation confirmed.
Vehicle has completed shutdown.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Second stage ignition confirmed.
Fed a clean fairing sep. Camera moved to forward
Stage
view.
separation confirmed.
Vehicle has completed shutdown.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Second stage ignition confirmed.
Fed a clean fairing sep. Camera moved to forward
Stage
view.
separation confirmed.
Vehicle has completed shutdown.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Second stage ignition.
3, 2, 1.
SpaceX designed the Falcon 1 from the ground up for high reliability and cost efficiency. The first and smallest in the SpaceX family of launch vehicles, the Falcon 1 measures 1.7 meters in diameter, 21.3 meters tall, with a mass of just over 27.5 metric tons at liftoff. It can lift 420 kilograms into low Earth orbit. High-performance carbon composite materials provide the optimal strength-to-weight ratio necessary for each of the two stages. The SpaceX-developed Merlin engine powers the first stage. A turbopump feeds RP-1 rocket-grade kerosene and liquid oxygen into the engine, generating over 78,000 pounds of thrust at sea level. Hydraulic actuators using pressurized fuel as working fluid steer the first stage. Gimbaling of the exhaust from the turbopump's gas generator provides for roll control during ascent. With a specific impulse of 304 seconds, the regeneratively cooled Merlin engine ranks on par with the highest performing gas generator cycle rocket engines ever built. The lower portion of the first stage tank structure contains about 6,800 kilograms of the RP-1 fuel. Halfway up, a common dome separates it from the LOX tank, which holds about 14,500 kilograms of liquid oxygen. The black interstage section, constructed of carbon fiber composites, tops off the first stage and contains the stage separation systems. The flight computer activates stage separation by firing 3 redundant pyrotechnic bolts. Then, pneumatic pushers separate the two stages. The first stage returns to Earth by parachute for a water landing and recovery, much like the Space Shuttle's solid rocket boosters. The interstage section also houses the Kestrel second stage engine. Kestrel generates 6,900 pounds of thrust and uses high-pressure helium instead of a turbopump to feed RP-1 and liquid oxygen into the engine. During flight, Kestrel burns for approximately 420 seconds. It features a radiatively cooled nozzle extension, optimized for use in the vacuum of space. A pyrophoric ignition system makes Kestrel restartable on orbit, allowing for the deployment of payloads into different orbits on a single mission. Like Merlin, SpaceX completely designed and built the Kestrel engine in-house. Falcon 1's second stage resembles a truncated version of the first stage, with a fuel tank holding 1,200 kilograms of RP1, a common dome, and LOX tank holding 2,700 kilograms of liquid oxygen. The top of the second stage houses the flight computer, which commands all major vehicle activities. The inertial measurement unit tracks the vehicle's rates of acceleration throughout flight. Transmitters to relay telemetry and video signals back to ground stations. Batteries, and a flight termination system. Above the Falcon 1 avionics bay lies the payload. An aluminum alloy fairing or nose cone, measuring 1.5 meters in diameter and 3.5 meters high, protects the payload during ascent. About 30 seconds into the second stage engine burn, the fairing separates in two halves and falls away from the payload and clear of the vehicle. Falcon 1 provides the world's lowest cost ride to orbit for small payloads. It also serves as a test platform for the development of the much larger man-rated Falcon 9 booster, which SpaceX plans to debut by the end of 2008 and fly in 2009.
Max, I think we're a little less than 15 minutes from launch, so I was wondering if you could tell us about the preparations for today's launch out in Quad and a little bit about the mission profile.
Sure. The vehicle is designed to be integrated horizontally inside the integration hangar that we have on the island next to the launch pad. The stages are shipped there. Usually they're shipped there separately, with the first stage, which is much larger, being shipped on a regular cargo barge, and the second stage being sent on a DC-8 cargo aircraft that regularly flies into Kwajalein. However, on this occasion, we put the whole vehicle in a single C-17 from the US Army and flew it there all at once. Once it gets to the island of Omelek, the stages are integrated together. They're checked out and then integrated together, then checked out together. The payload, in this case a mass simulator, is integrated to the payload adapter and encapsulated in the fairing, and then that is mated to the rest of the vehicle. And when the whole vehicle is ready, it's rolled out to the pad, which is just a few hundred feet away from the hangar, and connected to the launch mount and erected using the transporter erector hydraulics. This approach dramatically reduces the cost of the ground infrastructure. It completely obviates the need for large vertical structures around the pad to get to the rocket while it's vertical on the pad, because if there's a problem, you just come down horizontal again and take it back in the hangar. It also is safer because it means that all the ground processing can be done at ground level, which is both less expensive and safer for the personnel. The first stage, of course, both the stages are built in the factory here in Hawthorne, California. They are taken to the SpaceX Propulsion and Structures test site in Texas, in central Texas near Waco, to be proof tested for the structures and to be actually fired for the engines. And then final integration is back in Hawthorne. The facilities there on Omelek include a integration hangar and a clean room for payload integration that allows us to integrate sensitive spacecraft and encapsulate them prior to exposing them to the elements, which are quite obviously hard on a spacecraft or a launch vehicle. So once it is rolled out, then it's connected to the launch mount, and all the various fluid and gas connections are made, and they're proofed, usually by a team on the island or in cooperation between a team on the island and a team back at the Launch Control Center that's doing a remote control. And then flight termination system checks and radio checks with the range support systems. And then we may or may not do a wet dress where we fuel the vehicle fully, or a static fire where you fuel the vehicle and launch and light the engine for a few seconds before shutting it down again. On this occasion, we did a static fire about a week ago and rolled back into the hangar, and then we came back again, and we are launching without a static fire on this occasion. So on the day of launch, there is basically two procedures that are run. There is the pad preparations procedure and the countdown procedure. Both of them are approximately 2 hours in length. The pad preps includes all the checks for lightning and cloud cover and weather conditions, comm checks between LCC, the Launch Control Center, and the vehicle, all the remove before flight items, the ground crew ensures that they are off the vehicle and accounted for, and all the data recorders and cameras are set, some various checks, final checks of the vehicle and the ground system. And then finally the hold down pins are removed, so the pins that physically prevent the vehicle from being released from the launch pad are removed, and from then on you're depending on the hydraulic system to hold the vehicle down. At that point, about 2 hours before launch, you finish the pad preps procedure and the pad team evacuates the island, because the island is only 7 acres at high tide and is too small to have personnel on the island while the vehicle is being fueled. So they fall back to the next major island to the south, which is called Mech. It's about 1.5 miles south of Amalek. And from that time on, the vehicle is completely remotely controlled from the Launch Control Center on Kwajalein. The countdown procedure consists of a series of checks, notices to airmen, notices to mariners. We get COLAs, or collision avoidance schedules, from NORAD to ensure that we don't launch too close to any existing spacecraft or debris in Earth orbit. We get weather updates. Weather balloons are launched on a regular basis and provide input with upper level winds and wind shear so that we know whether it's acceptable for launch. And the range does a series of other checks for the tracking systems and communication systems. Then there is final configuration of the pad, and at that point, about T-minus 1 hour or 1 hour 15 minutes, they start fueling the vehicle. Initially, there is LOX load, and that fills typically to 95% and then goes into what's called a topping mode, because LOX is boiling off continuously. It doesn't stay full the way the fuel, the RP1 kerosene, stays full. So it fills to 95%, then goes into a topping mode. The fuel is loaded starting 55 minutes before launch. Around T-minus 30 minutes, which was a few minutes ago, there is a status update from the range verifying that they are still green to support the launch. T-minus 10 minutes, which is an optional hold. There's final verification of COLAs, and coming out of that there is a poll to ensure that SpaceX and the range and the payload customer, on the occasions that we have a payload customer, everybody is go for launch. Some FTS checks. 3 minutes, T-minus 3 minutes, the GSO, the ground safety officer, enables ignition. And then it all leads down to the final 60 seconds, which is all, in fact the final 10 minutes is entirely autonomously controlled by ground software. And the final 1 minute gets exciting. You see about 55 seconds before launch there is a thrust vector control test, which wiggles the engine nozzle, verifies that it's responding correctly. T-minus 30 or 40 seconds, the various tanks are pressurized for flight. T-minus 30 seconds, the water deluge comes on. That dumps a lot of water between the engine nozzle and the pad. It reduces acoustics and also helps to protect the pad from the blast of the engine during liftoff. And then about 3 seconds before launch, the engine is ignited, and you'll see that it burns for about 3 seconds prior to liftoff, and that's because if anything is off nominal at that time, we can detect it. Half a second before liftoff, there is an autonomous check by the flight computer, and if any of about 70 parameters are outside of the predetermined thresholds, then the flight computer will shut down the engine and safe the vehicle rather than releasing it for flight. This is a major reliability enhancement for the vehicle. And then at T0, if all is well, the vehicle is released for flight. So let's take a look at the rocket here on the pad. You can see a lot of condensation coming off the top of both stages. That is the result of the very cold liquid oxygen or oxygen vapor coming out the vent valves at the top of both stages. In the minute before launch, you'll see that condensation stop when they close the valves to pressurize each of the 2 stages. We are about 6 minutes from launch, 6.5 minutes from launch, which means we are about halfway through the terminal count, it's called.
Max, can you tell us a little bit about the payload that we designed here that is being carried on the Flight 4?
This mission is launching with a mass simulator. It's about 160 kilograms, about 5 feet high. It's an aluminum tube designed to emulate the way a spacecraft behaves when attached to the vehicle, so it has similar modes, similar dynamic modes to an actual spacecraft. It will not separate from the vehicle in this occasion, so we will reach orbit, we will send a deploy command, but there is no deployment system.
So far we are proceeding without any hold, and we are about 5 minutes from launch. Max, how about telling us a little bit about what we're going to see post-launch in the few minutes we have here, and then I think we'll keep our video live on the launch site here as we are, getting down to 5 minutes.
Sure. At T0, as I mentioned, the vehicle lifts off the pad. The flight computer, when it detects everything is nominal, chamber pressure is nominal, it tells the hydraulic hold-down system to release the vehicle, and at that point it lifts off the pad. The first stage engine, called Merlin, burns for approximately 160 seconds, from 2.5 seconds before liftoff until about 157 seconds into flight. It propels the vehicle from being stationary on the pad about 5 feet above sea level to over 85 kilometers altitude and 2.8 kilometers per second, which is about Mach 8. For the first 10 seconds of flight, the vehicle flies basically straight up from the launch pad, and then it does what's called a pitch maneuver. It begins to angle itself downrange so it can build up some velocity in the downtrack. Getting to orbit is all about velocity. It's not about altitude. It's about 20 times as much energy in the kinetic and going fast enough to stay in orbit as there is in the potential energy to get high enough. So you start moving downrange very quickly and really just want to get up out of the atmosphere and then accelerate laterally. About 56 seconds into flight, it goes transonic and becomes supersonic. Shortly thereafter, it passes through a phase known as max Q, which is maximum dynamic pressure. It's the most stressful time for the vehicle structure. About 158 seconds after launch, the propellants in the first stage are exhausted and the Merlin engine is shut down. This is called a main engine cutoff, or MECO. And about 5 seconds later, the stages separate. We are going to take about a 2-minute break and just watch the vehicle on the pad here.
T-minus 3 minutes and counting.
Bottle chill is ending. DAC 4 is on. LE9 is off. RF power is on.
Verified and current.
T-minus 2 minutes and counting.
Battery chargers are off.
Step 119. LD, verify SpaceX is green.
This is LD. SpaceX is green.
T-minus 1 minute and
GUIs are switched to range
35
source.
seconds mark. Step 120. RCO, verify the range is green.
Range is green.
Moving to internal power. Pre-valve and antenna heater is off. Vehicle in auto idle.
T minus 60 seconds and counting.
Vehicles in startup.
We are at T minus 48 seconds and counting.
TVC
We
motion
are
verified.
Just going to
45
listen
seconds.
to the countdown net. You'll
Fuel
hear
turn valve
the
actuator
launch
set.
conductor calling out the count as we approach T0 here.
35.
Now,
30.
First stage tank pressing.
DAC 1 triggered.
Water loose system is on.
25.
Vehicle navigation
First
verified.
stage tank stabilized. Second stage tank pressing.
20.
Second stage tank stabilized.
15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7,
You may hear some
Six.
noise in the
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
We're in stage
And
one.
we're flying.
Liftoff indication. We have liftoff. SpaceX Falcon 1 launch vehicle. Falcon has cleared the tower. Plus 12.
Pitch kick.
Plus
ahead.
20 seconds. Plus 30 seconds.
First is low.
Are they hit?
Vehicle navigation nominal and gravity turn.
Oh, we have that.
Power systems nominal.
T plus 60 seconds.
Go ahead.
Got max Q.
First stage propulsion performance is nominal.
Vehicle has a velocity of 630 meters per
You
second
can
and
see
an
the
altitude
plume
of
of
19
the vehicle,
kilometers.
the plume of the engine expanding as we get into more rarefied atmosphere. It also gets blacker as there's less and less oxygen to support post-combustion.
Vehicle has a current velocity of 1,000 meters per second and altitude of 32 kilometers. T plus 2 minutes. Vehicle is down, has an altitude of 50 kilometers, a velocity of 1,700 meters per second.
First stage performance is still nominal.
We are approaching main engine cutoff. There'll be a 5-second delay before stage separation.
Second stage tank pressing. Second stage tank stable. Eco.
Stage separation confirmed.
And Kestrel ignition.
Perfect.
Second stage ignition.
Capture maneuver.
You can hear
There
the
go
cheers
the
in the background
stiffening
from about 500
vans.
people
Captured.
here.
You can see the limb of the Earth in the upper left side
T
of the
plus 3
screen.
minutes. We have a relative velocity of 2,700.
The Kestrel engine will burn for
meters
more
per
than
second
6
and an
minutes
altitude
during
of
the ride to orbit.
130
Here
kilometers.
we see fairing
Project
separation.
fairing step.
There goes the
Fairing
fairing.
separation confirmed.
Second stage propulsion performance is nominal.
We're at 3 minutes and 30 seconds into flight. We have a relative velocity of 2,800 meters per second and an altitude of 170 kilometers.
Second stage guidance is nominal.
T plus 4 minutes.
at T plus 4 minutes. We have a relative velocity of approximately 3,000 meters per second and an altitude of 200 kilometers.
See the kestrel nozzle glowing a dull red. It's actually designed to glow almost white hot if necessary. Very steady attitude we're seeing.
At T plus 5 minutes, we have a relative velocity of approximately 3,200 meters per second and an altitude of 253 kilometers. All systems are nominal.
The vast majority of the acceleration occurs during this latter half of the second stage burn, as the mass of the vehicle propellant load decreases.
We're at T plus 7 minutes. We have a relative velocity of 4,200 meters per second and an altitude of 315 kilometers. Beginning to lose stage 1 telemetry.
Second stage propulsion is performing nominally.
Guidance is performing nominally.
We are getting very close to orbital velocity.
5,200 meters per second and an altitude of 328 kilometers.
We appear to have loss of signal. That is not necessarily a bad thing. We were expecting to lose signal sometime around here. It can be highly variable depending on the weather conditions at the time. So we, of course, want to see what happens for the next 60 seconds. We were about 60 seconds away from a nominal shutdown. We will be getting back to you just as soon as we have more information.
Telemetry and video.
Here's behind us of our employees.
9 minutes, 30 seconds.
Second stage approaching SECO.
And that would be a nominal SECO.
SECO's in confirmed.
Which means Falcon 1 has made history as the first privately developed launch vehicle to reach Earth orbit from the first privately developed launch vehicle to reach Earth orbit from the ground.
That was not.
Repeating, simulated payload deploy confirmed.
T plus 10 minutes.
You're seeing a forward shot. That is where you would
RGS,
normally
nice
see
job
a
on the
payload
video.
separation.
Thanks for
In
your
this
great
case,
support.
we are not separating the
Hey,
payload.
congratulations. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
And
Still showing active on second stage telemetry.
we are heading over the horizon with respect to the launch range, so we are expecting loss of signal any second now. You can see it starting to break up. But this is a very good day at SpaceX.
Max, I think it's important when we lose our signal here to put this in perspective.
They'll see we have
what
released all
SpaceX has
safety
been able to
radars,
achieve today.
nominal mission.
Yes, the SpaceX has designed and developed this vehicle from the ground up, from a blank sheet of paper. They've done all the design, all the testing in-house. We don't outsource. And we have achieved this with a company that is only now 500 people, and it has all occurred in under 6 years. And this is just the groundbreaker. This is just the vanguard of the much larger Falcon 9 launch vehicle debuting from Cape Canaveral next year, and the Dragon spacecraft that will be debuting in June of next year and will be providing cargo services to the International Space Station. So we have big plans even beyond that here at SpaceX, including human space transportation in the Dragon launch vehicle and on the Falcon 9 launch vehicle and the Dragon spacecraft. And this is really just the beginning. It's just the tip of the iceberg here. There's a lot of people here who have worked very hard for a very long time. Tremendous commitment from them and from their families to get to this point. It's really an incredible achievement.
You can hear the cheers in the background from the amazing team that we have here at SpaceX. It's, only about 550 people on the team, and we've just managed to do what very few companies around the world have ever done.
There's going to be celebration on Kwajalein tonight, I can tell you. Wish I was there.
Max, let's recap the launch for people who hopefully hadn't just tuned in. We had a picture-perfect launch, ride to space, and perfect separation. So, do you want to review the mission for us here?
Sure. We've gotten very close before now. The second launch of the Falcon 1 got to over 8 minutes of powered flight and got very close. We had a control issue with the second stage. Then the third flight, just 2 months ago, was a great flight from the first stage perspective, but we had a separation anomaly, as people know. And this time we got through first stage, we got through stage sep, we got through fairing separation, and we got through over 6 minutes of second stage burn, and we reached a nominal orbit. So that vehicle is fully operational, and we just couldn't have expected a smoother countdown today and then a smoother execution today. Huge congratulations to the launch team there on Kwajalein.
And I know we had a lot of support from people from all over the world. We received thousands of emails wishing everybody well here. So I really want to thank all of you who have been with us since the beginning and watched us through our growth at SpaceX and continue to be part of our family here. We're hoping at some point to be able to get our CEO and CTO, Elon Musk, over to our live webcast, but we'll see where he is on the floor and hopefully at some point be able to have him over here to speak with you.
I'm hearing also that the coast phase telemetry is coming down as expected. We have a low-rate telemetry system translating information from orbit.
Yeah. What we're hearing in the background is Elon Musk addressing the employees of SpaceX.
Well, that's the thing. Hi.
Hey.
All right. What? Well, that was freaking awesome. We made orbit. It's like you know, thanks to the hard work of basically, the SpaceX team, all you guys. I mean, that's really what got us to orbit there. And there are a lot of people that thought we couldn't do it. A lot, actually. But, as the saying goes, fourth time's the charm, right? I mean, so I mean, this really means a lot to SpaceX. Obviously, I mean, getting to orbit, I mean, that's just a huge milestone. There's only a handful of countries on Earth that have done it. It's normally a country thing, not a company thing. So it's just an amazing achievement. My mind's kind of frazzled, so it's kind of hard for me to say anything. But man, definitely, this is one of the greatest days of my life, and I think probably for most people here. It's we've shown people we can do it, and this is just the first step in many. I mean, we're going to get Falcon 9 to orbit next year, get the Dragon spacecraft going. I mean, we're going to be taking over for the space shuttle when that retires. I mean, this is we're going to do a lot of things. Ultimately, I think even getting to Mars and things like that. So I think this is definitely the future of SpaceX is really great. I mean, this is. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, because I mean it's just like so freaking awesome. My mind's blown. So it just, except just like to say, reaffirm. This is just the first step of many, and this really opens the way for us to, get Falcon 9 going, get manned space flight. I mean, there's just so many cool things that are there in the future. And I'm gonna have a really great party tonight. I don't know about you guys. So, I'm gonna go talk on the webcast thing, so I can tell people what went on. Yeah. RadSat, I believe, is currently orbiting at 330 by 650. Almost exactly. RadSat is in orbit. Absolutely. So it got an apogee about a couple 100 kilometers above the space station. So yeah, if somebody could take a picture of it, there'd be like this logo of a rat on the satellite. So all right, I'm going to talk on the webcast. But congratulations, everyone. This is your hard work that made this happen. Okay.
Now Elon Musk is joining us. Of course, is our CEO and CTO of this flight and the founder of SpaceX. And Elon, congratulations.
Thanks, Sam.
It's a fine day. A lot of people call this a nominal launch. We call it phenomenal.
Absolutely, it's great.
Tell us what you're feeling.
Definitely one of the best days of my life, and I think also for a lot of people here at SpaceX, it's the culmination of a dream, and it's just kind of mind-blowing, actually. So I can hear myself actually echoing back there. I'm just, I think my nervous system almost got fried just watching that flight. So, you know, yeah, wow.
I know I heard you the other day in an interview say that you wouldn't need to build any more rockets because if we were successful, you'd already be over the moon.
Right, exactly.
Is that true?
I think I probably am over the moon. Yeah.
And we missed some of what you were saying to the employees over there. We couldn't really hear online here. Are you able to repeat for some of us what you told your employees, like right after the launch?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess. Yeah, I think the important thing is that this is really just the first step for SpaceX. We're really we've shown we can get to orbit, and we're going to do that repeatedly now. I think what we've shown is that we've eliminated any design errors with the vehicle. If you look at the issues with the first 3 flights, they were really design errors in the case of a corroded nut, and then the second stage guidance plus slush baffles thing, and then the third mission was the fact that we had a brand new engine with an uncharacterized thrust transient and vacuum. But now we've eliminated those design issues, and so really, in order for us to have a continued success, it's going to be ensuring that we have good configuration control, good production and quality assurance processes, just doing all of the appropriate things as far as mission assurance is concerned. But I think it's certainly possible for us to have an unbroken success record now that the design issues are taken care of with Falcon 1, and also for Falcon 9. This bodes well because if you look at the components on Falcon 1, you've got the Merlin 1C engine on Falcon 1. It's the same engine that's on Falcon 9. Actually, let's move this thing. Sorry.
High technology.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of the same components on Falcon 1 as Falcon 9. In terms of the software, certainly guidance, navigation, and control is substantially the same between Falcon 1 and Falcon 9. The engine, propulsion system is substantially the same. And there's more of them, more engines, but it's the same fundamental engine. And of course, we've already shown that we can do 9 engines simultaneously and fire those repeatedly on our test stand in Texas without a problem. So I think that what you're seeing here bodes well not just for Falcon 1, but also for Falcon 9. And it's really just the first step for SpaceX. And next year we'll be doing our first launch for the NASA Commercial Orbital Transportation Services program, and with both Falcon 9 and our Dragon spacecraft.
Now, is the Falcon 9 going down to the Cape before the end of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. We expect to have Falcon 9 vertical at the Cape by the end of this year, and then probably do our first launch, in the second quarter of next year.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of sidebars here we were going to talk about. We were going to talk about our Cape construction and about COTS, but the launch went so perfectly and so perfectly on time
right.
that we had no time to do that. So we do have a lot on our website, but we're hoping that as time goes on, we'll be able to learn more about each one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. This was the smoothest launch countdown of all, and it just shows that the team's getting more and more practiced at these things, and the systems are getting smoother and smoother. All the bugs are getting worked out, and we look forward to doing a lot of Falcon 1 launches and a lot of Falcon 9 launches, and really, continuously improving to the point where we're the world's leading provider of space launch.
That's fantastic.
All right, thank you.
I'm so glad you could join us, and again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Just fantastic.
All right.
So to all of you out there, we really appreciate your joining us on this historic day. To recap, SpaceX Falcon 1 very successfully launched to orbit, and in a picture-perfect launch, picture-perfect separation, and the mission was a total success. So we're elated here. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to go join everybody else to celebrate our accomplishment. So thank you again for all joining in, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next launch. And check our website for updates, because we have a lot of information on there, and we'll be showing you things. We'll be showing you also the video from today's launch on our website. And also let us hear from you. Sign up for our newsletter, and also send us any of your comments at media@spacex.com. So again, thank you very much. I'm Diane Murphy, and good evening.
Six, 15, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. Liftoff of the Falcon 9. Both stages and
Earth and
we have state separation.
Nominal. Reviewing. All in all, this has been a open.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Liftoff.
Good morning. You are looking at a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket with the Dragon spacecraft sitting on the SpaceX launch pad at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jessica Jensen. I am the manager of the Dynamic Environments Group here at SpaceX, and we are webcasting to you live from SpaceX's headquarters in Hawthorne, California, just a few miles east of the Los Angeles International Airport. And we're actually, our launch desk is sitting out on the manufacturing floor, which is very cool for two reasons. One, if you look behind me, you can see the next Dragon actually being built up for launch in our clean room. And the crowd is actually starting to build here for launch. So it's getting exciting. We hope it's all gonna go off today. So this is the third test flight for the Falcon 9 rocket and the second test flight for our fully operational Dragon spacecraft. And this is an unmanned mission. We are carrying cargo to the International Space Station for NASA, where we hope to become the first private organization to ever send a spacecraft to visit the International Space Station. This is something that literally only a few nations have ever achieved, and it's going to be an incredibly challenging mission, but we've tested everything and we're ready for it. And speaking of testing things, this is actually our second launch attempt. Our first one was 3 days ago on May 19th, where we actually got all the way up to the liftoff sequence and aborted due to a high chamber pressure on engine 5. But we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. First, I actually want to introduce my co-hosts from the SpaceX team. And we have first John Innsbrucker. He is the product director for the Falcon 9 launch vehicle. John, can you tell us about that?
Sure. Good morning. As a Falcon 9 product director, I help plan and integrate the development, production, and test of the Falcon 9 launch vehicle. I've been at SpaceX since October 2006, a little more than 5.5 years. Prior to that, I served in the U.S. Air Force. There's a shot of me standing in front of the Titan IV rocket. I was manager of Titan II and Titan IV rockets. After that, I was director of the Evolved Expendable Launch Vehicle program. I've got about 28 years in the Air Force of launch acquisition, operations, and launches behind me. And interesting to note that my very first launch, February of 1980, was from the same launch pad we're going to be flying Falcon 9s out of at Vandenberg in the near future. And I'll tell you, it's been over 30 years, but this is still the exciting thing that you get to do, and looking forward to bringing it to everybody in just a little bit more than 40-some minutes.
Very true. Also with us, we have Kevin Brogan. He is a senior staff engineer in the propulsion group, and as of, I believe, 2 minutes ago, it is actually his birthday today. So we're hoping that Falcon 9 puts on a good show for his birthday. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do here, and you've been here for a while, so.
Sure thing. Yeah, I'm a longtime SpaceXer. I've been here since 2003. I've worked on all sorts of propulsion projects, just about everything that we've developed here. There is a really vintage pic of me back in about 2005 with the upper stage engine of our earlier Falcon 1 vehicle. I've also worked on a couple things we're going to see in action today, and that's going to include Draco thrusters, which are going to maneuver the Dragon capsule when it's on orbit today. And I also did some of the mechanical design for the primary heat shield that Dragon uses, which if all goes well in about 10 days or so, it should use when it tries to re-enter Earth's atmosphere. So I'm excited about that. And I'll certainly take a birthday present of getting into orbit today if it all works out. And so maybe tell us a little bit about what you do, Jessica.
Sure. So I joined the company back in June of 2006, just after our first Falcon 1 launch. And there's actually a picture of me standing next to the second flight of the Falcon 1 rocket. I was working out in the Marshall Islands, helping do instrumentation for it. So what my group does is we're actually responsible for ensuring that every piece of hardware on Falcon 9, the rocket, everything, and that the satellites, cargo, and eventually crew we help to fly can all withstand the vibrations that the engines induce. And we actually hope to, we're working to make the quietest ride possible. So that's what I do.
We appreciate that. And of course, we're just three of over 1,800 people here at SpaceX that design, build, test, and fly this Falcon 9 vehicle and the Dragon spacecraft. And we're very happy to be part of NASA's public-private partnership and really help lower the cost of access to space. And hopefully we're going to see some good action here pretty soon.
Yep. So today's webcast is going to last about an hour if all goes as planned. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to recap a lot of the stuff we mentioned in the webcast on May 19th. Just because I know we have some new viewers, we want to make sure we cover everything. But we'll try and throw in a couple tidbits of stuff so that those of you who watched on May 19th can get a few little extra pieces of information. So what we'll go over first is we'll talk about what you can expect to see during liftoff and ascent. Then we'll describe the plan for the roughly, it's now a little bit condensed, 2-week mission on orbit. And then, yes, once we do that, actually, we're going to jump over and let's talk about the launch abort that occurred on Saturday. And John's going to start us off for that.
Yeah. For many of the folks who saw or read about it, we did abort the countdown just after we ignited the 9 engines on the Falcon 9 first stage. The flight computer detected that the normal expected pressure was a little higher on the center engine, or what we call engine 5. After we finished the abort, we got the crews back out to the launch pad where they found a failed check valve. Check valve's about this large in size. Found that on the Falcon 9. We were able to work on the Falcon 9 while still vertical. We didn't have to bring it horizontal or bring it back to the hangar. What the crews found was the check valve had failed open. This allowed liquid oxygen to flow from the main injector over to the gas generator injector. That results in the higher than nominally expected pressure in the main combustion chamber. We were able to we removed and replaced the check valve with another unit. We have checked it out, done leak checks, make sure the valve functions. Everything with the check valve looks good. We also spent a lot of time Sunday after replacing the check valve Saturday night. On Sunday we did a data review both on Dragon and Falcon 9, looking at the results from the countdown, seeing if there was anything else to be gleaned from the data. Everything looks good. So we've replaced the one piece of discrepant hardware. We had a chance to look at everything. The vehicle's ready to go. The crews got a little more exercise, and we're coming up at T-minus 37 minutes, and we're going to be good to go.
Yeah, it's worth noting that the system really worked exactly as designed. You know, we built into our launch system the capability and, in fact, the requirement that before we launch, we take all the engines up to full power, and while we're doing this, our engine computer checks all of them out and looks for anything out of family. In this case, in fact, it did find something out of family. It aborted the launch, and it put the vehicle in a safe mode, which is exactly what we wanted to have happen. In that time, our engineers were able to dig into the data, look at the hardware, and see exactly what happened. We did find a mechanical failure, but our launch system is specifically designed to find this before we take off. So I couldn't be happier that things worked out the way they did. That's exactly how we design our system, and you know, we really hope that we go off at T0 today, and if we don't, I'm sure there'll be a good reason for it.
So yeah, SpaceX engineers worked all weekend to go over this, and we are ready. There should be one thing I want to note, that even though now we're 3 days later, we still have an instantaneous launch window. That is the one thing that actually has not changed.
Right.
So,
yeah, we have basically right now we're scheduled to lift off very precisely at 7:44 and 38 seconds Universal Time Code, which is about 3:44 in the morning on the Pacific side and 12:44 in the morning here, or 3:44 Eastern, 12:44 Pacific, which is common. Any vehicle traveling to the International Space Station is going to have a very short launch window. It can be up to 6 to 8 or 10 minutes. For us, we're choosing to launch at our very exact nominal time. If we launched off of that time, what that would mean is our Dragon vehicle would have to use extra propellant to reach the station. In this case, we want to do a lot of test maneuvers with the Dragon vehicle, so we want to save about as much propellant as we can, so we're choosing to go with an instantaneous launch window. Any delays or holds, we'll scrub for the day and probably go again on the 25th, but we'll look at that down the road. Right now, I think we're looking decent to go.
Great. All right, so as Kevin mentioned, you know, you can stay, basically if anything happens, whether we scrub today or hopefully we will go, no matter what, you can check your updates at spacex.com. We will be posting updates there and hosting webcasts for more key events. You can also check out our Facebook and Twitter pages. And lastly, you can look on YouTube, where we've posted previous videos of launches and test firings in Texas that are really cool. Oh, one more thing. Elon is tweeting from the Mission Control Conference Room. So if you actually go to the Twitter page and look up SpaceX, you can read some of his tweets there, which is pretty exciting because you're hearing it right from him. He's sitting right in the control room, and it's pretty cool.
That's great.
So, all right, well, let's go back and take a look at Falcon 9 on the launch pad and get our first launch update from John.
Sure. We're at T-minus 34 minutes and 15 seconds. Let's take a look at the status of the various pieces that are going to make up today's launch. Out in Florida, we've got Falcon 9, which is being operated out of the Launch Control Center, where about 24 folks are taking Falcon 9 through its last paces currently. Right now, we began loading propellant on Falcon 9 about 3 hours ago, finished up about an hour and 50 minutes ago. So fuel's on the first stage, on the second stage, liquid oxygen's on both stages, and we're topping it off. You can see the gaseous oxygen plume coming off of the vehicle as we keep making up a little bit of liquid oxygen in the tanks as it boils off as we wait for T0. We completed flight termination safety checks with the range a couple of hours ago. We've lowered the strong back for launch, and we're pretty much waiting for the next major activity, which will be going into the terminal countdown sequence at T-minus 10 minutes. In addition to Falcon 9, we've got Dragon on this mission. We'll be flying the Dragon spacecraft to low Earth orbit, and we're operating that out of the Mission Control Center here in Hawthorne, just off of our set. There's a shot of Mission Control Center right now. They are taking care of Dragon. They have finished its final configuration for launch. The Dragon's fairly quiet right now. Its next major activity is going to be switching to internal power at about T-minus 8 minutes, and we should hear that on the countdown net when we get into the terminal count sequence. Mission Control Center is also in communication with Johnson Space Center, where they're operating the International Space Station. They're exchanging the schedule data, the status data, making sure both sides are ready to go. The latest report we've got is that NASA is also go to support the launch this morning. That takes us up to the last major piece, and that's the range. Range status is green for launch. Those are the folks at Cape Canaveral and the Air Force side that are providing the infrastructure and the services we need to support the launch. The safety hazard areas have been cleared, the roadblocks are put up. They're also providing the flight termination systems. They're doing the cameras and the radars. And right now, everything that they've got that supports the launch is green. The next thing that we'll also be doing is watching balloon data. The balloons right now and the overall weather is green and good for launch. Balloons show us that we are capable of flying through the upper altitude winds. And the weather data shows us, at worst case, about a 10% probability of violating constraints, which this time of the year in Florida is about as good as it gets. So right now the winds are calm, things look good, weather's good, rocket's good, control centers, Dragon are good, and we are now 31.5 minutes away and everything is green and quiet, and let's hope it stays that way.
I love it. This is exciting. So last week we solicited questions from our Facebook and Twitter followers, and during our last webcast we actually answered some of those. What we're going to do is recap some of the questions and cover some of the answers since some people missed that. So a lot of questions, I actually get asked this by my friends a lot, is how are you affiliated with NASA? Some people think we're actually competitors or we're not affiliated at all. And the truth is NASA is actually our customer on this mission, and we've been collaborating with them for several years now. So this mission is part of a larger program that was initiated by NASA to develop commercial space systems. And what that means is generally it's going to save the government money, which is good. And this specific program was designed or developed to see if space providers could develop or transport cargo to and from the International Space Station safely, reliably, and cost effectively. And doing this in a commercial way for these specific missions, what that does is allow the government to save money so that NASA can then maybe spend its money on, say, other exploration efforts, which is great. So to sum up, basically, NASA is our customer, our partner, our mentor. They've helped us along the way. We would not have come nearly as far as we've come today if it wasn't for their help. And you know, we're excited, we thank them, and we're super excited to keep working with them on future missions. So no, NASA is not our competitor for whoever possibly thinks that. All right, so we're gonna go back over to John now, where he's gonna talk about the launch phase and more of the Falcon 9 rocket.
Sure. Just like our last flight in December 2010, Falcon 9 is launching from Cape Canaveral, Space Launch Complex 40, to put Dragon into a low Earth orbit. Falcon 9 is powered by 9 Merlin engines on the first stage. There's a shot of typical engine section of the Falcon 9. I mentioned earlier we had to replace a check valve on the center engine, or what we call engine number 5. Here you can see the center engine is literally the one in the middle of the tic-tac-toe pattern. We build these engines here in Hawthorne, California. We take them to Texas, where we test the engines. We then install them on either a first stage or a second stage. We then test the stage, and then we transport it, in this case, to Cape Canaveral, where we do final assembly and prepare to launch. Now, once we ignite the engines, it takes about a second to get up to full power. Now, the computers on the rocket will check out the engines. As you saw or heard on our first attempt, we can stop the launch if we detect something that is out of the ordinary. Once we pass these final checks right before that critical T0, the rocket computer then commands the launch mount to release the vehicle for flight. Now, once we're in flight, the engines will put out about 1 million pounds of thrust. Here's a shot that's looking back towards the launch pad from a camera that we put on the second stage of the Falcon 9. The vehicle's about 157 feet long, or about 48 meters. And you can see the launch pad, in this case, receding into the background, although tonight, with the darkness, we may not see much of the pad once we clear the towers. You can also see a circular opening just along the side of the rocket. That's where the second stage umbilicals that carry fuel, liquid oxygen, gas, electrical, plug into the second stage. They get ejected at liftoff. We climb out through the atmosphere, and we go supersonic, faster than the speed of sound, at about 70 seconds. On the first Falcon 9 launch, that was indicated by this great shot of a shockwave forming around the front of the Falcon 9. But for tonight, again, in the darkness, I don't think we're going to be able to see that. We'll fire the first stage engines for about 3 minutes, at which time then we shut them off. We'll coast for a moment before we get to stage separation, and that's one of the most critical moments of the launch. At this time, we're 90 kilometers up, about 56 statute miles, and we're going over 10 times the speed of sound. We activate our stage separation system. SpaceX, we use a non-explosive system, something that we can check out and make sure is working. Instead, we use a high-pressure helium gas, which will push the first stage away from the second stage. That exposes the upper stage engine nozzle that you can see, that gray nozzle in the picture. The second stage engine will then ignite and continue pushing Dragon on the rest of the way into the low Earth orbit. Now, at this altitude, the exhaust plume of the engine is nearly invisible. Instead, what we should see tonight is the large expansion nozzle glowing red hot in the darkness of space. Red hot glow is normal for that upper stage engine. You may also see a smaller nozzle. In this picture, that's that little silver nozzle superimposed on the red hot nozzle. That's our roll control nozzle. That'll move back and forth every now and then. That helps give us the needed guidance to keep the stage lined up and going into the proper orbit. We'll fire the upper stage engine for 6 minutes, and that gets us up to the magic velocity of orbital speed, 17,500 miles per hour, or about 7,800 meters per second. Once we get into orbit, the second stage engine is commanded to shut down by the flight computer. And that brings us up to the big event when Dragon spacecraft is commanded to separate from the second stage and it heads out on its own. From start to finish, Jessica, it's going to be an exciting 10 minutes, and we are right now just 25 minutes and 45 seconds away from being there.
All right, keep getting closer. So today's launch is going to take us northeast over the Atlantic Ocean. We're going to pass over the viewable ranges of ground stations in Wallops, Virginia and Newfoundland, Canada. Good news for that is you'll actually be receiving live video with no delay from liftoff all the way till we get on orbit. Then sometime close to Dragon separation and deployment of the large solar array panels, we're going to be losing coverage around there, but hopefully we'll get to see those events because that'll be really cool. Now at the point we actually lose video coverage, we're going to bring you back to Hawthorne and wrap up today's webcast. Now when we do that, we've lost the video, but the reason we lose video is because that's a very high data rate channel, and we can only get that over certain ground stations. So the mission control engineers here will still be communicating with Dragon throughout the entire mission. We won't lose any of that. And we will be taking those, whatever we find out from them, we'll be posting updates on SpaceX.com and through our Facebook and Twitter pages so that everyone can stay up to date with Dragon's progress towards the International Space Station. And that's actually now what Kevin and I are going to talk about. You know, how are we actually going to get there once we're in orbit?
Right, you know, just a reminder, what you're going to see today is only the ascent phase. We got a lot of work to do. It's going to be 3.5 days before we get to the station. So once Dragon reaches orbit, SpaceX Mission Control here is going to communicate with it and perform a whole series of checkouts. This is going to include everything, including batteries, power systems, the communication and navigation, the Draco maneuvering thrusters, and much, much more. This happens for about the first 2 orbits or so. After that, we settle in for about a full day of catching up with the International Space Station. And at that point, we're going to be in the vicinity of the station and start a whole series of tests. Real quickly, I would recommend everyone download our press kit on the website at spacex.com. This has a really detailed mission timeline, talks about everything we hope to accomplish, also gives some great history about SpaceX, about our collaboration with NASA, what our cargo is, some of the other commercial suppliers that are in the same program, and even the 45th Space Wing. So there's a lot of good stuff here. Download this at spacex.com. We're going to give you just a brief overview right now of what Dragon's going to do on orbit. So once we start catching up with the International Space Station, we're going to basically get in the vicinity, which means about 10 kilometers away. At that point, we start a very detailed series of missions where we perform a fly around. At this point, it's really a very complicated orbital dance. You're seeing a very simplified picture now, but it's a very complicated orbital dance where we get as close to 2.5 kilometers and about as far away as 10 kilometers. During this time, Dragon's going to be communicating with the space station, and in fact, the crew aboard the space station has a control panel for Dragon, which they're going to use to turn on a strobe beacon and push the Dragon away, which is part of a tested abort scenario. After we perform a whole series of maneuvers, our team here in Mission Control, as well as NASA and the international community that run the International Space Station, are going to review all the data and confirm that they think Dragon at this point is safe to go to the station. If everyone gives us a green light, NASA is going to give us the final go-ahead to approach the station. It's going to be a really exciting time, and when we do this, Dragon is going to start approaching the station from the direction of the Earth. It's going to move really slowly, and it's going to slowly nestle itself up till about 10 meters or 30 feet away from the station. At that point, it's going to go into a holding position, and astronauts aboard the station are going to use the Canadian robotic arm, and they're going to reach out and they're going to grapple the Dragon vehicle, and they will maneuver it into place to berth it with the Harmony module on the space station. This operation takes over 5 hours, so it's a very slow mission, but it's very precise. The astronauts aboard the station that are going to be doing that are the U.S. astronaut Don Pettit and European astronaut Andrei Kuipers. Here's a great picture of them when they were in Hawthorne doing some trading with the Dragon vehicle. And right now they're on board the space station awaiting the Dragon vehicle. These guys are some real rock stars of the astronaut community. And in fact, Andrei Kuipers took this photo just 3 days ago of our launch facility when they were flying over it. Of course, we had hoped to launch at that time, but we didn't. So once we've docked with the station, the Dragon vehicle is going to connect itself to the power of the space station, and at that point we're going to cease operations for the day, and the next day is going to be
hatch opening day.
Yay!
So the astronauts are obviously on the space station side, so they open the space station side of the hatch. At that point they have access to Dragon. They open the Dragon side of the hatch and they can begin to climb in and unload cargo. So as you can see on this photo, that is the SpaceX facility, and a whole bunch of NASA cargo is getting ready to get loaded onto Dragon. And of course, everyone is curious as to what we're actually bringing up to the space station. And we have all kinds of stuff. We have, let's see, over 300 kilograms, which is about 700 pounds of food. And yes, it was asked if we are bringing fresh fruit, but unfortunately, a lot of this cargo was actually loaded a couple weeks ago, so no fresh fruit this time, but hopefully get some soon. Some other stuff we're bringing are computer supplies and laptop batteries. Also, there's a bunch of really cool student experiments, and these student experiments come from, I think, middle schools and high schools all over the country, which is really cool. And they have science goals ranging from, you know, the rate of bacteria growth in microgravity to how to purify water in space. So I know all these kids are super excited to see their experiments actually launch into space, and hopefully they'll get some really cool data back. It'd be great for them. All right, so then towards the end of the mission, now we've taken all this cargo off and put it onto the space station. The astronauts are now going to load up about 600 kilograms or 1,300 pounds of cargo for the return mission. And this is great too. We want to be able to, you know, transfer things to and from Earth. So what we're going to be bringing back is some science experiment hardware, some metal alloy samples from microgravity processing experiments, and the coolest thing is spacewalk gloves from some of the previous astronauts. We'll be able to bring that back home, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's some great stuff, and it's good to be able to bring it back. You know, it's worth noting that with the retirement of the space shuttle, the Dragon capsule is the only way to bring back significant amounts of cargo from the space station. Of course, the Russian Soyuz vehicle can bring back 3 people, but only a very, very small amount of cargo. I think each person gets about a lunchbox size of cargo. There are other vehicles that visit the space station. They include the Russian Progress, the Japanese HTV, and the European ATV, but none of those vehicles have re-entry capability. In fact, they're usually filled up with trash and jettisoned to burn up in the atmosphere. Also, another commercial partner, Orbital Sciences, is building a commercial vehicle to visit the space station, but it also does not have re-entry capability. So we're very excited to be able to bring back a lot of great stuff from the space station, and we're really hoping to see that happen in just about 10 days or so.
Yes. So at that point, it'll be our last day on the station. It's going to be around May 31st. And at that point, the astronauts will close up the Dragon side and then close up the space station side, and they will actually unberth Dragon using the same Canadian robotic arm that actually brought us towards the station. Then, what actually happens next is the trunk separates from the capsule, and the capsule itself is actually going to be the only thing that is returned to Earth. And what happens is Dragon fires its Draco thrusters, and that's what starts it on the actual re-entry process. As Dragon comes into the Earth's atmosphere, it is protected by the SpaceX-made high-performance Pika X heat shield. And what that does is actually protect the vehicle while it's slowing down from the 17,500 miles per hour on orbit speed. And it's got to slow down to less than Mach 1, which is about 750 miles per hour, at which point the parachutes will deploy. And Dragon will begin its nice, slow descent into the Pacific Ocean, where it's going to splash down about 500 miles off the coast of California.
That's going to be awesome, and we're going to have a crew there to pick it up. Yeah. Here's a really great photo of our team back in December of 2010 when we orbited a capsule and recovered it. Great group of guys there. You know, as hard as it is to get something into space, it's almost harder to get it back. So we're really happy to validate that capability, and we look forward to bringing some stuff back from the station on this very mission.
Great, thanks Kevin. So that sums up most of the stuff we were going to cover during this webcast, and it looks like we have a little bit of time before we go into the conductor's poll. So we're going to go over a couple of the questions that were asked last week from our Facebook and Twitter fans. And one of them was, or a couple, actually a lot of people asked this, they're wondering, is our rocket reusable, and will we be recovering the first stage on this mission? John, can you answer that for us?
Sure, I can. On previous missions of Falcon 1 and Falcon 9, we have tried to recover the first stage, but it's proven to be pretty difficult. If you've been following SpaceX, you know that one of our long-term goals is the capability to rapidly reuse the vehicle and fly it again. So we're working on that. We're doing design work, test work right now, but again, that's a goal that we're still pursuing. For today's flight, we don't have any parachutes in the first stage. We didn't pack the mortar that fires the parachutes out. So once the first stage gets pushed away from the stage, it'll re-enter the atmosphere on its own, break apart, and we won't be trying to recover it today.
Very true. So another thing that people ask about is, so the statistics have shown basically that there's a high probability of an issue occurring on one of the first 3 flights of a new launch vehicle program. And since we are a new launch vehicle program, people are wondering, are we worried about this? Kevin, are we worried?
Well, of course we're worried. You know, we're engineers. You know, being worried is what we do. We try to predict absolutely everything that could go wrong with this vehicle and then design it to handle that capability. In fact, the launch abort we had just last week is a good example of something that worked right. You know, we designed in the capability for us to check out our engines before we released the vehicle, and they were able to discover a mechanical problem, which we were able to fix. So we've done a huge amount of testing. You know, we test this rocket more than anyone does, and we're really excited about it. Of course, the Falcon 9 vehicle is really only half of it. You know, we design, build, and test the Dragon as well here in this facility. And we've designed all kinds of multi-redundant capability into it, and have had some great help from NASA and their mentoring. So this is a test launch. You know, we want to stress that this is a test launch of the launcher and the Dragon capsule, but of course if we didn't think it was going to work, we wouldn't test, or we wouldn't launch. So we're really excited to get a shot at it today.
Yep. So the crowd is building. It's grown a lot since we've even just started this webcast. You might be able to hear them cheering a little bit in the background. So it's getting close, and we're going to go over to John and the rocket. So we're going to check out the rocket on the pad, and John's going to give us a final launch update.
Good news is we are still green and counting down at T-minus 14 minutes and 12 seconds right now. Falcon 9 propellants are loaded, gases are loaded. Next major activity is going to be start of the terminal count sequence at T-minus 10 minutes, and we'll let you listen into that on the countdown net when we get there. Dragon is go. It's configured for flight, except for the last few steps, like going to internal power at T-minus 8 minutes. The range is go, weather is go, and the control centers are go. And we do have a report from our guidance, nav, and controls folks that the balloon data, they've processed the most recent balloon. It shows that our capability to fly through the atmosphere is green and ready to go. So we're ready to rock and roll. Coming up here in just a few seconds at T-minus 13 minutes, we're going to listen to the SpaceX launch conductor poll the team, and they'll give their final go, no go, ready to enter the terminal countdown sequence. So we'll listen into that, and then we'll come back for just a couple of minutes.
All stations verify ready for launch. All stations acknowledge. FTS.
FTS go.
Prop.
Props go.
AVI.
AVI go.
GNC.
GNC go.
Ground.
Ground is go.
VC.
VC's go.
GC.
GC's go.
DC.
DC's go.
RC.
RC's go.
OSM.
OSM go.
ROC.
Range is ready.
CE.
CE go.
LD.
Launch director go.
MD.
Mission director go.
LD, verify go to initiate terminal count.
LC, you are go to initiate terminal count.
Copy.
As you heard, the SpaceX launch conductor did poll the team, and everybody is go for entering terminal count, heading to T0 in T-minus 12 minutes and 10 seconds. Right now they're giving final directions to the team prior to picking up the terminal count at T-minus 10 minutes.
All right, so as a reminder, this mission is our third flight of the Falcon 9 rocket and our second test flight for the Dragon spacecraft. We are carrying cargo to the International Space Station for NASA. And on this mission, we hope to be the first privately built spacecraft to visit the International Space Station. Like I mentioned, this is going to be an extremely challenging mission, but we've been lucky enough to have NASA support and guidance over the past few years, and we've tested everything possible, so we are ready.
Again, we have a near instantaneous launch window, which is going to happen in just about 11 minutes and 20 seconds. If we have any delay or holds, we'll scrub for the day. But if we do lift off, we expect to see Dragon separation in about 11 minutes after that. And we're going to hold on to video just as long as we have it. And with luck, we'll see the solar arrays deploy, which is going to happen just 2 minutes after that Dragon separation. So we're really excited. It's going to be another 3.5 days before we get to the station. But at that point, we'll be there for 10 days. We certainly want you to cheer us on and follow us. We're going to have all kinds of updates on SpaceX.com and Twitter, providing you that information as we have it.
Yep. So what we're going to do now, actually, this is the view you're actually going to be seeing as the vehicle takes off. This is about 12 stories up on the vehicle. You can see the umbilicals coming out of the rocket right now. Those will release, and that's the view you're going to get. Some of our cameras actually have little lights on them, so we might get to see a little bit more, and the plume will actually light things up. But we're actually going to switch you over to the countdown net audio that begins at T-minus 10 minutes. And this way you'll be able to hear the launch and mission control engineers working through the final procedures in the terminal count. So let's check it out, and we'll be back after launch.
3, 2, 1, mark. VC announced the sequence has started.
Dragon terminal count and terminal count launch have started.
RCO confirmed clock is counting. GCVC standby on FireX.
Standing by. Standing by.
OSM set launch enable to flight.
Switch into flight.
RCO confirmed clock is counting.
Clock is counting.
Pre-valves are coming open. Aux bleeds are open. The M9 engines are chilling in.
Pre-valves are open for flight.
T-minus 9 minutes. T-minus 8 minutes. T-minus 7 minutes.
First stage fuel bleed open. Vehicles in self-alignment.
T-minus 6 minutes.
Stage 2 TVC bleed has started.
T-minus 5 minutes.
Vehicle and pad abort systems are setting up for launch. GN2 load has ended. Stage 1 and Stage 2 internal auto sequences have started.
And we're on internal on Stage 1 and Stage 2.
Vehicle release auto sequences started in preparation for launch.
T-minus 4 minutes.
Ground T-tib system setting up for launch.
FTS on internal power.
S2 TVC complete.
Pre-valves are coming closed.
T-minus 3 minutes.
FTS is armed.
LOX load is ending nominally. Fuel trim valves are in their flight positions.
LD, verify go for launch.
Launch directors, go for launch.
Stage 2 heaters is ending nominally.
Rock, verify range go.
Range green.
Pre-valves are coming open for one last chill. Helium load is ending nominally. Engine purge ISO is opened.
First stage engines are chilled in.
Vehicle is in auto idle.
T-minus 1 minute.
Vehicle is in startup.
The flight computer's in control of the vehicle.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 tanks are pressing to their flight pressures.
T-minus 30 seconds.
All propellant tanks at pressure.
T-minus 20.
Fire X is on.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Stage 1.
We have liftoff at the Falcon 9. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Starting pitch kick. Starting gravity turn.
First stage engines at full power, looking good.
We have a solid telemetry link and the power systems are nominal.
First stage propellant utilization is active.
Vehicle's on a nominal trajectory. Altitude 5.3 kilometers, velocity 225 meters per second, and downrange distance of 0.6 of a kilometer. Vehicle is supersonic. Vehicle has reached maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Propulsion's performing nominally, starting stage 2 engine chill.
We have a solid RF link and power systems are nominal.
Vehicle's on a nominal trajectory, 30 kilometers altitude, 1 kilometer per second velocity, and downrange distance 20 kilometers. Drag and power systems are nominal. Vehicle's on a nominal trajectory, 53 kilometers altitude, 1.7 kilometers per second velocity, and downrange distance of 51 kilometers.
Approaching MECO 1. MECO 1, planned shutdown on engines 1 and 9.
First stage impact point past mid-MECO.
MECO 2.
Nominal velocity at MECO.
Stage set confirmed.
And back ignition confirmed.
The dragon nose cone has been jettisoned.
Stage 2 propulsion systems nominal.
Vehicle remains on a nominal trajectory, 176 kilometers altitude, velocity of 3 kilometers per second, downrange distance 320 kilometers.
And power systems are nominal, and we still have a solid telemetry link.
OSM, this LC, please move to net A.
Stage 2 propellant utilization is active.
Vehicle remains on a nominal trajectory, 220 kilometers altitude, 3.4 kilometers per second, and downrange distance of 470 kilometers.
Second stage propulsion performing as expected.
second stage power systems looking good, and we have a solid telemetry link.
Vehicle remains on a nominal trajectory, 269 kilometers in altitude, velocity of 4 kilometers per second, and a downrange distance of 712 kilometers.
All stations MD, procedure 7.100 complete, runs procedure 7.101.
MVAC and stage 2 performance is good.
Vehicle remains on a nominal trajectory, 300 kilometers in altitude, velocity of 5 kilometers per second, and downrange distance of 1,000 kilometers. IMU sensor remains healthy, and GPS lock is verified.
And we are picking up data from New Hampshire.
Vehicles in terminal guidance. Vehicles pass through the European gate.
FTS is saved.
Roughly 30 seconds to Dragon set.
MVAC shutdown confirmed.
Dragon's
Falcon
in
9 and
separation.
Dragon are in orbit.
Dragon is in
Proper
separation
user
state.
in prime.
Wait.
All stations continue on your procedures.
Apogee
Run step 1.4.
346 kilometers, perigee 297 kilometers. Inclination 51.66 degrees.
Cameras forward. Dragon set.
Start of payload settling deploy.
Dragon is now free flying in orbit around the Earth. We are very excited. If we maintain video coverage, we hope to see the deployment of the solar arrays. If we lose video, everything is likely still operating nominally. We just have the limit of our signal. We have about a minute before the fairings that house the solar arrays are going to jettison, and that's going to automatically trigger their deployment. Right now, the Dragon's propellant system is priming itself, and the thrusters are going to fire, and then it will
prop initialization.
Hope we can hold signal here. Boy, well, we have just about 40 seconds to wait for this. Let's see if we can't hold our signal and watch these solar arrays deploy.
Solar array deploy attitude. Convert Draco thruster firings. Attitude looks good. Dragon is in array deploy. Props is nominal.
Dragon solar array deployment.
Newfound layout.
Solar arrays have deployed.
Well, we can see the solar arrays deploying. This is a great moment. Of course, this is just the first step of a very complex mission.
Power global.
But from all accounts, we have Dragon orbiting the Earth with the solar arrays deployed. We have a couple days worth of really difficult challenges before we get to the station, but there's both solar arrays are deployed. Dragon is performing nominally, and we are looking forward to a great mission here to the International Space Station. Hopefully become the first private company to service our international community at the space station.
Power global.
Go ahead and acknowledge, MD.
Okay, power global acknowledge. LD, MD on countdown.
LD's on a phone call right now, MD.
Yeah, copy that, LC. We're going to be switching off countdown net. Thanks for a ride. Okay, all stations, this is MD on mission A. We're on 1.10.
Dragon is in co-elliptic plant, no comm.
Well, as expected, Dragon is just about at the limit of the Newfoundland ground station. We're probably going to lose video shortly, but right now, Dragon is still communicating with Mission Control here in Hawthorne, California, and everything looks great. It continues to circle the globe. You can hear the audience here. Everyone at SpaceX, we've got 1,800 plus people. We're all working really hard, and we're on our way to a great mission. We still have 3.5 days, a lot of test maneuvers before we get to the station. So stay in touch with us at SpaceX.com and Twitter, and continue to cheer us on.
So, let's see if I can talk now. It's been a great launch today. This is the third successful flight of Falcon 9, the second time we've put Dragon safely into orbit. This is so awesome. We definitely hope to continue this success over the next 2 weeks, where we are making progress to the space station, and I feel pretty good that we are going to be the first private company to ever visit the International Space Station. This is so exciting. Please be sure to stay tuned to SpaceX.com and Facebook and Twitter and all those things. There's all kinds of great tweets right now. And, yeah, just please stay up to date with what's going on.
And we want to extend a special thanks to NASA for their teamwork and support in today's mission and getting here, to all of our customers and supporters over the years, to the worldwide network of tracking stations that are going to be helping us with Dragon going to the space station and back over the coming couple of weeks, and finally to the Air Force and the folks at Cape Canaveral for the great support in getting today's launch off of the pad.
Yes! Woo! So, on behalf of the 1,800 people here at SpaceX, we thank you so much for watching this amazing mission today. It is a great day. It's almost surreal. Yeah. So cool. Yeah, and just please continue to watch us as Dragon makes its progress towards the space station. And thank you.